Well, aloha kakahiaka, everyone. Today is June 13th, 2023, and you are on the Aloha Friday Hawaii Real Estate Show. Welcome back, everyone. Great to see everybody. We got a great show for you planned out today. As usual, here's a quick thing what we're going to be doing. We got some news, market updates, of course, your questions. We got diamonds and deals, properties that are aspirational and wonderful. And of course, we got some motivational thoughts. The most important thing are your questions. We're also using chapters in YouTube, so you can kind of click through right to the segment that you want to that most interests you. So please go ahead and do that if it is recorded. And so let's do our warm up here. Let's introduce ourselves. We're a little bit early. The show technically starts at 9 o'clock, so you can go forward a few minutes if you watch us on the recorded. But if you did that, then you'd miss out. You'd miss out on hanging out with our friends over here who. We've got Dylan Nonaka, who is from the Big Island, and we've got Heidi Dollinger, who is from Maui, and we have Ashliey Wasson, who is from Oahu. Welcome, everyone. Why don't we let's warm up those microphones. Dylan, let's start with you and go clockwise. What's happening? What you doing, man? Looks like you have a new set over there, or new colors, or new something. You're muted.
I was over here typing because I'm trying to stream this to my channels because you got this new handy dandy thing set up where I can stream to my channel. So I'll get that set up here in a second. But yeah, I did a really little
your channel.
Yeah, because then I can stream to my Facebook and my YouTube, right? Or like you got that all set up. So I gotta go and type the title in and stuff. This is like you automatically do it. But yeah, I got the home studio rearranged a little bit. My wife wanted to get rid of some old stuff and cabinets and stuff that were in here, so we did a little rearrange. So I'm actually facing this is a crazy thing that we had the desk set up facing each other in the back of the room, where if we look out this way, the way I'm facing the camera, there's an ocean view, right? So it's like, I don't know, I set it up originally, and that is not my jam, being aesthetically pleasing. So I got some corrective action to make the office a little bit more the natural light is better, so that helps with the video, right? So you got the natural light coming in the front window and stuff. So yeah, so same place, just a little bit different setup. Yeah,
looks good. General advice is that let the wife figure out how stuff should look. Just stay out of that. Stay out of that discussion, man.
I've accepted that long ago. Yes, long ago.
It ain't meant. Yeah, guys don't do that thing. Well, where our job is to be ordered around by our wives to put the furniture where they say it should go. That's our job. Our job is to.
And I've scientifically proven this, because if you've done a disc profile, one of the things you can add onto it is your motivators, and it tells you what things drive you. There's like 6 characteristics that drive you, and aesthetics is number 6 on my list. Like, it's the least important thing, and that's why I have the haircut that I do, and I usually wear the same shirt every day, because like that stuff just completely doesn't matter to me. So
That's right. Yep. Yeah. Well said. Heidi, what's happening on your end? How's Maui going? Oh, first I'm going to say hello. We're going to say hello to Kevin Reeves. Aloha. Good morning. Hey, Kevin. Great to have you here. Welcome. And Kelly Bishop is with us. Kelly is an alumni of the Island of Ohana. Welcome, Kelly. Good to see you again. Great that you're with us. We're just kind of going through our introductions over here and warming up the microphones. Heidi, how's Maui doing? What's going on?
Maui's doing great. It's just a little bit of a cloudy, misty day this morning, but just raining so lightly you can still walk outside and be comfortable. So just went on a morning walk this morning, got my coffee, of course. This weekend, there's going to be a big parade in Makawao. They're kicking off the Makawao Stampede, which is rodeo events, and it's going to be really fun. So I'm excited about that. And then the Wailea Film Festival is also coming up. So a lot of fun events here on Maui for the summer.
Sounds like a blast. You mentioned that rain. I think one of the coolest things that really strikes you as like somewhat unbelievable is that Hawaiian. I forgot what the Hawaiian word is, but there is a word for a Hawaiian rain where it's the rain that falls but does not make you wet. Right? It's that rain that falls on you that is so light. It cools the air. It lands on your skin, but it evaporates like right after it falls on you. So it's the rain that does not make you wet. And it's really an amazing experience to kind of have that every once in a while. So kind of what you talked about in Maui just reminded me of that. Speaking of rain that doesn't make you wet, Ashliey, what's going on, girl? How's the windward side? How are we doing today? My side's a little bit cloudy here today. How's your side doing?
It is so sunny and beautiful, and it has been beautiful for days, like hot. I have to fill up my pool every other day because it's just evaporating in front of me. I recently picked up pickleball, and I like to pretend like I know what I'm doing, but I'm just obsessed with it. And it just poured down rain out of the blue yesterday. I mean, we were just soaking wet, soggy shoes, the whole works, like beautiful sunny day. Then clouds caught onto the mountain, just poured on us like instantaneous, like sheets of rain. So definitely Hawaii at its finest.
Hawaii at its finest, man. I'm speaking of that just yesterday. In fact, yeah, you're right. We had a little bit of that here. It was where it was like perfectly sunny. Everything was great. And then wham, down comes some rain, and then it was gone. And then everything dried up in just a few minutes. It was fantastic. So it's Hawaiian magic at its best. Indeed. All right. Hey gang, thanks for warming everything up. Let's move on. Hey, I got a question for everybody. I think we're gonna the kind of Kapila section. I think I've run out of artists, so I've got it blank today. There is no artist on kind of Kapila because I'm thinking about maybe I'm going to rotate back and I'd love to know what you folks think. If you got any comments or feedback, should we continue this? If we have to kind of loop back and kind of show the original artist. Or should we just kind of end it? We'll see. You decide. If you guys thought it was cool, we'll loop back and start kind of playing back the other artists that we have. Otherwise, I'm going to move on. Dylan, go ahead.
Did we ever do Brada Is?
Oh yeah, he was the first.
Was he the first? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
He was the first. And Auntie Joan is with us. Aloha, everyone. Ashliey, thank you for the lovely comments last time. Yeah, Ashliey, the last show we talked about Joan we had picked, and it was the one show that Auntie Joan was not here. And then Ashliey kind of sent back the message, which is cool. So yeah, the one show that Joan was not present was the one where we highlighted her presence. But hey, that's the way it goes. Hey, we got a bunch of news, and of course I want to hear you guys' feedback on it afterwards. So let's just kind of jump right into this right now. So here's what's going on, gang. Got a couple things going on. First of all, we have an airline flash sale. Now I don't know if it's still happening, but it was like a really big news. You could get like round trip airfare for like $200, and so everyone's kind of doing it. And of course, because everyone's doing it, everybody hates it locally. The locals hate it because they're complaining, and rightly so, probably, that there's some people who are there's a private Facebook group actually. And I forgot what it's called. There's a private Facebook group made up of local folks, and they're all upset because some people are saying, "Hey, can I just fly to Hawaii and sleep on the beach?" No, you can't sleep on the beach if you can't afford the hotels, etc. Don't please stay. But it's kind of funny, right? So the lower fares are bringing more people, but of course with more people comes more controversy. So I thought that was always fun. Kilauea, the volcano. Dylan's going to clue us in on that. Kilauea, the volcano on the Big Island was on for 12 days. Yeah. It was on for 12 days, doing its thing, and then it was off. We were which is too bad because we have some family that's visiting us in early part of July, and we're going to go, of course, do the Kilauea trek. But that is no longer going to be happening. So Dylan, I want some update on that. Lower taxes. It looks like in Honolulu, the city council has voted unanimously to lower the city's real estate property tax for the first $1 million of value of residential properties that are used for rentals. So Ashliey, if you have any update on that, I'd like to know about that. Fill us in on kind of what that is and what the effect might be. Save the manta rays. If you guys, this is the first time I've seen that. I did not know that there was a manta ray tour on the Big Island. And of course, like any good thing, how's that go? No good deed goes unpunished. Of course, now manta rays are super cool. So now, of course, what's happening? It's becoming crowded, overcrowded, and now they're talking about kind of getting rid of it or regulating it or something like that. Dylan, I don't know if you've heard about that. I've never gone on we have gone on a manta ray tour. We actually swam with manta rays, but this was in the Caribbean, actually when we first got married as part of our honeymoon. But I never saw this on the Big Island. And then finally, here's another thing, and I know you guys want to chat about this, but unlimited clean energy protest. So here's what's interesting, right? So there is, and it really kind of typifies, again, it's an element of local culture here. So here's what's going on. There on the Big Island, of course, we have the active volcano. Right next to the active volcano, there is a geothermal energy generator source. It's called PGV, Puna Geothermal Ventures, if I'm not mistaken, is the name of the company. They're a geothermal energy generator. They basically, they're really close, of course, to this active volcano. There's a whole process which is, very well proven throughout the world, where there's they use this geothermal energy, the hotness of the lava, to generate steam, and steam spins turbines, and turbines generate electricity. It generates, I think, a good 25% of the electricity on the Big Island is generated by geothermal. There's enough geothermal energy on the Big Island to power the entire state completely. It is a 100% carbon free. It does not burn any fossil fuels. The only thing it does is it lets out some of the toxic gases that the volcano spits out by the thousands of tons a day. The volcano spits out thousands of tons a day of toxic gases. This one, because they drill in, of course, also has them as well. And of course, they're getting criticized. People want to shut them down. So it's always interesting to have a group. Here we have on one side, we have super clean energy, doesn't emit carbon, can power the entire state. And there's another group that wants to shut it down. So that's an interesting part of the day in Hawaii. Sorry I hope I didn't rant too long on that to make you guys fall asleep and get bored. And then, and that's that for the news today. So why don't we do this? It's time to shift over into our market updates. Find out what people are what's going on from market to market. Why don't we do this? Why don't we kind of go counterclockwise? Let's start with Ashliey and then Heidi, and then we'll end up with Dylan. Give us an update, Ashliey. What's happening on Oahu? What other news you want to add? Anything you want to comment on? That tax? I don't know if you heard about that tax bill, etc. Anything you want to comment on, Ashliey? Go.
Yeah, so from last month, because it's been a couple weeks since we've been together. Last month, in April, we had roughly a median sales price, again, just roughly around $645,000. And then it's gone up, and this is for single families and condos, up to $700,000. If you're just looking at single families, we are at par almost to November 2022. And right now we're over 1.1 million average price point for single families. And condos, we're still hovering around 500,000. We have increased amount of new listings. However, the inventory has plateaued. So we obviously still have that supply and demand issue. The month supply is under 3 months still for condos and for single families. So we're about 2.8 to 2.9 months. So the market is super stable, super hot. The tax bill, we don't know a whole lot about it, but I know that there is an income cap, I believe, that they're talking about. So they're trying to help specific people who I think they're trying to raise the income to qualify, because only about 3,500 residents are currently taking advantage of the program, I believe. And they're looking to increase the income amounts to say 70, 80,000 per year for the household, so that they can take advantage of that tax credit to lower their property taxes and make it more affordable. So say if you have $1 million home, you're paying probably around 3,500 in taxes, and they want to cut that closer to in half. So they're talking about increasing your homeowner's exemption from 100, 110,000 to 140 to 160,000. All of it is still just proposal, because it equates to, millions of dollars for the state in tax revenue. So, and they did say that it's for classification residential A. So they are talking about it expanding to rental properties as well, to help offset people who are looking to get, offset their income needs.
Did you catch anything, Ashliey, on that that other law? It looks like it's passed the council. I don't think the mayor has signed it yet, but it's the one about reducing the taxes, or is this related? Reducing the taxes for rental. If you own a rental property on Oahu, looks like there is a reduction of potentially they're proposing a reduction of the taxes for owning a rental. I don't know if you heard about that one or not.
No, I think it's all bill. I think it's called Bill 40, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to look it up after and see if this is the Bill 40 that I was just referring to, because I think it qualifies for both your primary and rental.
Okay, yeah.
But next show, I'll confirm.
Yeah. And Steve is with us. Welcome, Steve. Good to see you, buddy. Glad you are with us for the live show. Hey, give us a shout out. I'd like to know where you all are from, where you're listening in from. It's always kind of fun to see folks on the show. While we're doing that, Heidi, give us the market up. So I'm hearing stability. Basically, I'm hearing stability. By the way, actually, what has been the typical you mentioned 3 months of available inventory, some kind of a stat. What has been the traditional normal kind of a number that is? You said it's about 3 months of inventory. What's the normal number that's at, has been historically?
I mean, historically speaking, say over the last 10 years on Oahu, I think you're probably looking at closer to about 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
In a traditional market, though, 6 months is considered pretty healthy because that's right on the border of a buyer and a seller's market. So anything below 6 months is considered a seller's market.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
Oahu specifically, and Dylan and Heidi can attest to the other islands, is usually a pretty standardly aggressive market.
Awesome. Well, Kevin's happy because Kevin is now living in Waipio. Welcome, Kevin. Congratulations. You made the move. Good for you, buddy. Awesome sauce. Heidi, give us the update. What's happening in Maui? What's Maui's market like? And what do you see?
Yeah, well, the Maui market is strong and stable. It's definitely a slower market compared to a year ago, 2 years ago. I mean, there's just less sales happening in general, but there are still a good amount of sales happening. I'll give you a couple stats, I mean, just to kind of show the pace of the market. So year to date, new listings for single family homes are down 31.2%, and down 40.4% for condominium homes. However, because the number of properties selling has slowed as well, we're actually seeing, a little more inventory in some cases in some markets. Earlier this week, I was touring properties with the buyer. I was actually able to set up 5 to 8 homes to look at in their price range, and we were able to go around and look at those homes. That hasn't necessarily happened for a while because things in the past were selling at such a quick pace. So, I mean, it's kind of nice. You can actually go and look at the properties and think about it and make a decision. Now, price-wise, I mean, everybody's asking about prices. Are they softening? The last month's stats show the median price for a single-family home on Maui decreased just 0.4%. I mean, so pretty stable. Median price for single-family is $1,165,000, and then condos, the stats are showing up 9.9%, $830,000 is the median price for a condominium home. And we're just seeing some interesting things. I mean, some sellers are getting super, super aggressive with their pricing. There's been some listings on the market, just listed very optimistically high, and then they're reducing their prices. But overall, what's selling, I mean, prices are stable and up. But we are seeing days on market increasing some for both single family and condominiums, which, I mean, just kind of goes with this whole theme is it's a little bit slower market than it was in the past. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm hearing the kind of the similar theme here. It's a little bit slower, but there's nothing, catastrophic that's occurring. Some kind of tweaks here and there at the edges, but again, nothing significant going on. Let's say a few shout out to our friends over here, Tom Falconer, him and his wife, Islander alumni Ohana, and work with Dylan, and they're living life in the back lanai and Kea'au. So I am Tom. That's, I wish there was a feature on this thing where you guys can send photos that I could play live. That would be really fun. But regardless, I'm glad that you guys are there, and I hope you're living the dream, man, because that's what it's all about, right, Dylan? Living the dream. We got Steve Boyer, who's tuning in from Provo, Utah, waiting for my car to be serviced. Dude, I can't think of a better thing to do than be hanging out with us while while your car is being serviced, right? You're in a service department. It's like, yeah, I'm tuning into my friends from Hawaii, man. And Bob Carl is Aloha from Hawaii Kai. Welcome, Bob. Good to see you again. I know you are a returning visitor, and we are really, really glad to have you here. Dylan, your turn. What's the update? Give us if you have any adventure stories about the Kilauea volcano. I'd like to hear about that as well. But give us, what's the market like? What other news do you have, and what's happening?
Well, I just wanted to emphasize, I just thought that was hilarious, Heidi's point about it's really nice having like 4 or 5 homes that you can show somebody, because that really illustrates, what we took for granted for so long, where it was so insane, where it's like you had to like put the offer in before you even saw the house and be over asking price. And now you can actually go back to, I remember a time when you could show 10 houses and then, take the weekend to think about it. So we're still not back to that market. And that's definitely the case on the Big Island. We are actually have less properties on the market today than we did a year ago. So inventory is about 100 properties less. We're at like 1,800. There was 1,900, 2,000 at this time a year ago. So there's less inventory, which is continuing to drive sales. So although sales are down, it's really driven by the overall inventory. But it's really what I've been doing recently when I talk about the market is having to put into context the market today versus not the last year or the last 2 years, because those were what most people are calling the unicorn years now. That's like the new term for the 21 and 22 markets, because they were just so far out of control outliers if you look at the last 50 years of real estate. So if you look at the market today versus the market in 19 or even back to 17, which are very stable, healthy markets, we're still we're at extremely low inventory. So 50% the amount of homes that were available in those times. And if you look at the number of homes that are selling, it's on par. We're like kind of in that on the Big Island, 400 to 500 properties sell a year in a normal market. That's what we're back to, is 450 sales last month. So it's very much just kind of a back to normal, but even if you compare it, kind of stronger market than we were in prior to the unicorn COVID years. So yeah, the market's good. We're sales, the median price is just like Heidi said, pretty much exact same as it was a year ago. And if you think about the market a year ago, the second quarter of last year was the peak, right? If you want to identify a peak, that was right before interest rates started going up in June, was the second quarter of last year, and everything started to slow down. So the fact that we're kind of right on par and there hasn't been any significant drop off, and that there is no new inventory coming to the market, it's, we're going to continue to move forward, and it's going to be strong. We're still getting, I'm really being focused on making sure we're pricing property right, because if we're going to get the best and highest price for our sellers, we need to do that, because we're still getting multiple offers. If you price it like right where it should be, you're going to get multiple offers. If you price it too high, then sellers are kind of finicky, and buyers are finicky, and they may not come in, and you're going to have to drop the price, and you're not going to get as terms aren't going to be as good. So that's just important in this market, is to price properly. But back to the volcano. It's beautiful. That's the thing, is it's back to being, last couple of weeks when the volcano was going off, the vlog was back. It was thick, it was gnarly, and then it made you yearn for the days with no vlog. But then now that it shut off 2 days ago, it's like I'm looking out and it's just completely blue, completely beautiful. But that's the life on the Big Island, right? It's not really a big deal. It's kind of like the news makes a big deal about it when it erupts. Nobody says when it stops. But that's been going on for 40 years. So it's not really a big deal. And, back to your point about geothermal, that's one of the things that drives me the most crazy about our politics and our community, is like, we talk about being green and being environmentally friendly and stuff, and then we're the only state that doesn't give you credit for having an electric car. We don't push geothermal, which is like by far the cleanest, safest energy there is out there. And so yeah, it's unfortunate that holds back us from doing what's smart and what makes sense. But I've toured the geothermal facility. I used to work for the governor, and I've been there, and it's actually not true that it like emits toxic gas. It's a completely closed system. Like this, whatever comes out of the ground goes back into the ground. So can you get all of it? Probably not. But it isn't like it's spewing some abnormal toxic fumes into the community. The Kilauea is doing that, in like literally like thousands of metric tons a day.
Thousands of tons a day. That's right.
Is not having any significant impact. And I've been breathing that stuff my whole life, and I'm okay, right? So it's just not a credible concern. But we let a few loud people drive like the larger policy, which really is detrimental to the overall community.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, but if we could riff on this, and I'd want to get Ashliey's and Heidi's take, more of a commentary on sort of local politics and the local kind of social fabric of things. And these are just examples of it. But I think that the one thing that you mentioned was really true, because so you mentioned what you mentioned was, a few loud voices kind of override everyone, right? And I think that goes back to local culture is very much, especially on the political scene, is very much of we all have to get along. We all have to get along. And so in this quest to get along, you almost have a tyranny of the minority, because we got 75 people are on X, 25 are against X, but we care so much about those 25 that we're going to kind of bring everybody in and kind of work out something that, nobody gets what they want. So, because we're all going to get along. We all get along that way. Because Super Ferry was the same thing, right? Super Ferry was like everybody overwhelmingly wanted Super Ferry, but there was a handful of people. And there's another story about that as well. There's a bootlegger. I talked about this bootleggers and Baptist thing a long time ago, economically, right? You have people who have a sort of a moral cause for something, and you have people who have an economic cause for something. And when you put those two together, you get like a really powerful combination. And I'm wondering who's the bootleggers and the Baptists with PGV, with Puna Geothermal Ventures. But
that's an easy
anyway,
one. It's the electric company. The electric company. They're burning coal and oil and charging us 36 cents a kilowatt hour. There's no interest in, and guess who a huge political contributor in the state is to a lot of our big politicians who are green and environmentally friendly, right? It's Helco. So
Helco is the electric company. Yeah. So there's your so it's actually a great example of bootleggers and Baptists. The Baptists are the environmentalists who somehow think that something's going wrong with the environment. It's wrong to drill. It's somehow wrong to kind of drill into the down into the ground to pull geothermal energy. There's something wrong about that. And then there's the bootleggers, which is the electric company, who's like perfectly happy not having us drill and have geothermal energy supply the entire state with clean, free, not free, but super low cost energy. So, Ashliey, you're smiling, you're smiling from ear to ear, and I definitely want to hear your take on this, because you've always got a great view that's typically counter to what we have, which is what makes it great.
No, in this case, politically, I would say it is one of the pitfalls to Hawaii. I will be honest. As beautiful and as amazing as it is, it is a mess when it comes to politics. And there's not a lot of common sense. A lot of things, like you said, the majority wants one thing and then it doesn't occur, and they do focus on the minority. I feel like it's an extremely blue state, which, depending, that can be fine for some, but there's just not a lot of logic behind things. Everyone's just wildly over budget. There's no efficiency to anything. It's almost like in certain departments, it's second world country and, a first world destination. And it sort of blows my mind. And I understand that there can be like a coconut ceiling here. We're a couple years behind, the mainland, but I've never been big into politics. And I don't know, it's just because I'm getting older, because it's so frustrating here, but I avoid talking about it, because if you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything at all.
There you go. Well,
that's why we love you, Ashliey.
There's a reason why Dylan, and to a much lesser degree me, did politics many years ago, and then we stopped it because it's like going nowhere. But actually, man, you're like on almost a libertarian rant there. Almost like, oh my God, what's going on? Join that.
That's why welcome I don't talk politics.
Welcome to the club, man. Libertarians rule. And Joan says, sounds like Colorado. The tail wags the dog. I think this is the way it is. I mean, this is why, well, speaking as a small L libertarian, this is why the efficient governments are small governments. There's no such thing as a large efficient government. But anyway, Heidi, what's your take on like local culture, local ways in terms of this sort of get along, do along to get along, a lot of things like that.
I'm so curious what Heidi has to say.
Yeah. I don't want to corner you into anything, Heidi. You could talk about flowers and cats if you want, but I would just love to get your take on this conversation.
Yeah, well, I mean, the state has a goal to be 100% clean energy by 2045, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of talk about this, a lot of support about it, but yeah, I mean, I'm not the best person to comment of exactly, what's being done. Um, it's a big goal and it's something people support, but like what is actually being done? And the other thing is the infrastructure of creating power. I mean, a lot of our infrastructure on Maui is getting older and is going to need to be replaced. So we'll have to see how that goes. And then you have the other camp of the people that are just angry about the cheap flights because their solution is just don't come here, stay home. So yeah, I don't know what the solution is.
I think one solution would be you cannot make laws that take effect 30 years from now. Like that's your laws should only be able to take effect now, right? And it should only affect stuff that's now, because it's easy to make these crazy aspirational laws that get you reelected that you can put on a campaign poster, but that are, and we go back to this, we talked about this recently too, is the cesspool bill, right? Or a cesspool law that they have in place. If they want a 100% conversion by 2050, if you just do the simple math, you got to do 3,000 cesspools a year between now and 2050 in order to do that. And we do between 150 and 200. So it's like the most ridiculous law that is zero chance of it ever being implemented. And they're going to have to change it in 2049 when they're going to instantly turn thousands of homeowners into criminals if they don't change it. So it's like that kind of stuff really is just so it's so frustrating when they do stuff and then I'm a proud environmentalist because I put this law into place, which I know is zero chance of actually taking effect and making any difference.
That is a really good point on that. Is making these future goals. Energy 100% renewables by 2050. So we can
how about we just get to 10% by next year? Let's do that first before we talk about 100% by 2050, right?
Yeah, totally true. And and on the renewables thing, which is interesting. And Kelly Hobby, if you're still with us, Kelly lives on the Big Island, and she's working to live off the grid and has solar. And the fun part about solar, I've got solar panels too for another reason. Just a quick side note. I was Oahu. Ashliey, you talk about second world country stuff. It's like, our energy reliability, our electricity reliability is like right there with second world, bordering on third world. Right? Okay, Ashliey's nodding yes. Right? A lot of outages, and I've got the log to prove it. And I got the log to prove it.
Of course,
and it's going to get worse. Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah,
and it's going to get worse, right? So what did we have to do? We ended up dropping a lot of money, way more than I wanted to, but we bought not just solar panels, but we also bought a battery. So I have a Tesla, which is an amazing product, the Tesla Powerwall. And so ever since we did that, I've never had a power outage ever, which is fantastic. It's absolutely the coolest thing. However, if the sun is not around, if it's been rainy, cloudy days for several days in a row, solar and thing don't work. So if we're going to go to 100% renewable, so Kelly, maybe you want to chime in on this, is like, are we all prepared really to turn off our refrigerators and everything else and our electricity if we don't have sun? If we have like a bunch of cloudy days in a row on renewables, because the batteries don't. My video's gone. Okay, but the batteries will not last. Anyway,
speaking of second
the
world
renewable thing is going to be
connections.
Speaking of right,
I just lost power yesterday.
Right? It happens all the time.
There was no reason. It was like a gust of wind.
Yeah, bam, and it's out, and then it comes back. That was God's way of saying, "Watch it, dude. Watch it. You're next." But yeah. So anyway, so it's interesting on this renewables goal. I don't even know if as the world is discovering, renewables like solar ain't so good, but geothermal is like
100%
always
reliable. Yeah,
100% reliable. It's always running, and there is so much energy there. It's ridiculous. They could easily power the entire state easily.
What's crazy is if you actually see the plant and how like small it is, right? And it's powering 30% of the island already, and you could add 2 or 3 more to power the whole island. You could probably add 10 more and power the whole state. Like it's amazing how efficient it actually is and how low impact it is, you know, to the community, to the environment. You know, it's not like you got to have this huge, you know, solar farms, wind farms, right? I mean, think of these. It's visually impactful. They take lots of land. I mean,
thousands of acres.
Yeah, and so many levels. It's such a better process.
And it's not reliable. Anyway, so there's a couple of comments here, which is kind of fun. So Steve says, crazy not to use clean, free energy that Mother Nature has provided. Now, here's what's interesting.
Let me ask you a question, Peter. What kind of tax credits did you get for your solar system? That's another thing our state. You get federal tax credits, but did you get any state tax credits?
Nope.
No incentive. No incentive to put solar on your house.
No incentive, but we're going to go to renewables.
No one has to even recoup it. There's no incentive for solar. Like they're doing it backwards. Like we'll fine you or we're going to charge you, but we're not going to incentivize you. It's like punishing your kid instead of having a reward system, or like with your dogs. Like there is a tried and true way with humans and animals alike. Just
to create good behavior.
Exactly, right? Exactly. So here's what's interesting. So we're kind of riffing, we're riffing this a little bit, but I hope it's a worthwhile conversation. So what's interesting on this, Steve's comment here is making me think, crazy not to use clean, free energy that Mother Nature has provided. True. So what's also happening, Steve, is that there is a group, a faction of the geothermal folks that think it's sacrilegious. There's a religious component. They think it is a sacrilegious act to be tapping on Madame Pele, the goddess, the Hawaiian goddess, who is the goddess of that area, the lava goddess, and they think it is sacrilegious. It is sort of a sacrilegious activity. The interesting part about that is that I think in 2018, I think it was, there was a lava flow in 2018 that one of the lava flows, somewhat recent. I think it was 2018. It
was 18. Yeah, it was 18. It actually went right up to the edge of the facility and then stopped and then kept going. So it like
Pele made her intentions clear.
Yeah.
Pele made her intentions clear. She wiped out everything around the area except the PGV plant, went completely around the PGV plant. And so there's a counter argument, which is like, well, you know, she made her thing clear. Anyway, so that's that. Okay, let's move on. Jeff says, hey, 2045 is a lame goal. It will naturally be achieved much earlier than that. You think so, Jeff? I don't think so. I don't think we're going to be 100% renewables as defined by solar, et cetera, by 2045. And I don't think it's going to work. That's my guess. And Kinaya is with us. Hey, Kinaya, aloha. Kinaya is also an alumni of the Honor Ohana. Aloha from Waikiki, Lanai. All right. Welcome to Waikiki. You know, we had last night, man, we had the gang. I have to, one of these like local brag sessions, right? Last night we had, my wife and I celebrated we're celebrating our 31st anniversary. And we had a dinner in Waikiki. We went to the Sheraton, went to the Moana Surfrider Hotel, had a beautiful dinner right on the water, just off Waikiki Beach. It was absolutely fabulous. Sunset, the whole bit. And, you know, as we were sitting there enjoying this wonderful dinner, I was like, you know, this is why Waikiki was traditionally the place of royalty. That place is so perfect. It's so unbelievable. It's so amazing. Just fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. Oh, thank you, Jesse. Jesse Naomi Kabang Grace says 2018 was Fisher 8. Thank you. Thank you for that confirmation. You know, I love it. I love it when we get crowdsourced information. All right, gang. I think we beat the crap out of this issue enough. Next slide, please, as Dylan always says. Hey, look, gang, how did you get here? Did you get on the newsletter? If you got here via the newsletter, you're on. If you're not here via the newsletter, get on the newsletter. You'll get invites to the live show. We get really cool pictures. Actually, there was a super cool picture that I shared last week. I should have brought that with me about an amazing shot of a lava shot. Livinginhawaii.com. Get over there, get on the newsletter, and do your thing and join us. All right, let's move on. Ro Ritchie says Hawaii needs to chat with Iceland about their thermal. Yes, exactly, Ro. It's not like it's something new that we're trying to figure out here for the first time. Iceland's been on geothermal forever. Geothermal is everywhere. In fact, it's being
New Zealand.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It isn't like we're not inventing anything. We're just reusing it. But again, there are bootleggers and Baptists that are behind the thing. But anyway, we're just gonna move on because we love life and we love Hawaii. Hey, gang, look, real quick, everybody. If you've got a question, this is the time. It's about 34 minutes after the hour. We're kind of moving on through here. If you have any questions, this is an Ask Us Anything session. It doesn't have to be just real estate. Ask anything that you'd like to ask about Hawaii or living in Hawaii or doing Hawaii. Do the thing. Send it to us now because your questions come first. I got a couple of slides and a couple of questions that we're going to hit, but just wanted to give you all an invite right now. Number one, get on the newsletter, livinginhawaii.com. But two, got some questions, pop them in. And Auntie Jones got a ha'ole la ho'omana'o. Okay, Joan, that's awesome. What does that mean? What does that mean? We need to know what that means now. Give us a translation. And I hope you could pronounce it correctly because part of the Islander Ohana has really cool classes on how to properly pronounce Hawaiian words, which is a good thing. All right, here's where we go. So listen, Dylan, I got a question popped in. This is from Mary from Orlando, and she says, hey, I'm looking at a house on the Big Island, which is off grid. If someone previously lived in the home, is the solar system adequate? What's really needed? I will be paying cash for an off-grid house. I will have no car payments or credit card payments. Will $3,000 a month be enough to live on the Big Island that way? What are the drawbacks to buying an unpermitted home on the Big Island? So why don't we focus on this, Dylan? Let's focus on the fact of it's an unpermitted home. I think that's the big one here. Whether or not solar is enough or not, we could talk about that later. But I think the key topic here is, what are the pitfalls of getting an unpermitted? Here we go, Dylan. What are the pitfalls, Dylan, of getting an unpermitted off-grid solar-only home on the Big Island? How would you respond to that with Mary's question?
Sure. I was talking about this a lot lately with my team because we're getting a lot of questions about this. The practical downside is that you can't get financing, right? So you have to pay cash. The appraiser is not going to look at the structure as any type of value. There is a risk. It's a very low risk, but there is a risk the county, if somebody complained about it, the county could come in and make you take it down because it wasn't permitted. It doesn't happen very often. You'd have to have a neighbor or somebody that would be very proactive about that to make that happen. But the biggest thing I tell people to consider, right, is people have forever plans. And I don't know how many forever properties I've sold for people, right? So you think like, okay, this is what I'm going to do forever. This is my plan. I'm going to live the rest of my life out here. And then 5 years later, things change, or a year later, things change. And now you spent all this money on a property that is going to be very difficult to resell, potentially has no appreciated value. And it's a problem, right? I mean, that's a downside is you are taking a large risk in a lot of different ways. The biggest one to me being your ability to resell the property in the future for any type of profit. Does it happen? Absolutely. But it's just a much smaller buyer pool that you're going to be dealing with when it comes to unpermitted property. So there's a lot to consider there. Does it make sense? Do people do it all the time? Absolutely. But you really want to know what you're getting yourself into, because if you buy that and then a year later life changes and you got to sell it, I mean, you may take a loss. You may not be able to sell it for a long time. You never know what that's going to look like. So, and it is not easy or straightforward to get something permitted. And I have a big issue with when agents say, oh, you can just get it permitted after the fact. That is not the case. You have to get it. There's a very expensive process where you have to get a architect and draftsman to look at it, draw as-built plans. Then you got to submit that stuff to the county. If the property was not built to the current code, the code changes very, very often. So it could have been built to code 10 years ago, but the code is different today. So you're going to have to retrofit the issues that are not properly built to code today. Then you got to get licensed plumbers, electricians, contractors there to approve everything and look at it. And then you got to get inspections done. I mean, you could easily spend tens of thousands of dollars to get something permitted. So it's not a simple process of just getting the county to say, yeah, it looks good. So there's a lot to consider, and there's so many unknowns that you cannot know them all before you get into it. So if you're not comfortable with a ton of risk and a ton of unknowns, don't do it.
Oh man, that was the line right there. If you're
I'll
not comfortable with yes, go ahead, please. We're all going to speak. Go ahead.
After the fact, it is 3 times the cost of the original permitted as well. So
what? I'm sorry, Ashley. Would you repeat that, please? I think I cut you off a little bit.
My apologies. After the fact permits cost 3 times the cost of the original permit. So that's something to consider as well.
After the fact permits cost 3 times as much as the original as you would had you gone through the normal channels. Heidi,
One of my resources, let me see a cost example. But one of my resources that I send people to, and everybody's, don't you have anybody cheaper? I'm like, no, because a lot of people don't want to do this. But it's like $5,000 or $6,000 just to do an initial evaluation and draw up the plans as is. And then if you go and submit them to the county and they don't pass, you spent that money, and then now you have an additional cost, right? So it's like you can be out a lot of money and then not even get to the point where you can permit it. So like it's not like, oh, you'll find out how much money it's going to cost after the fact and stuff. You have some really significant upfront costs to even get there.
So there's a lot of reasons why you don't want to go with an unpermitted home. Thanks you for a whole litany there. Heidi, what's your take on sort of the unpermitted home buying thing on Maui? What would you like to add to this conversation?
Well, I don't know about buying a completely unpermitted home. I mean, that seems pretty scary, but what we come across more often are homes or properties that have unpermitted aspects to that. For example, somebody converts their garage into a little studio and puts in a kitchen, and then converts the downstairs into another apartment and puts in a kitchen down there, and that's unpermitted. Or they just decide to add a few more bathrooms, and never get permits for them. I mean, that's more common, what we see. And I mean, there's risk in that as well. And depending, so a lot of this exists in reality, and a lot of it just continues to exist, and nobody has any impact, because there are buyers out there that they look for these unpermitted improvements because they're adding value in certain buyers' eyes. But there's risks as far as insurance. There's risks if the neighbors were ever to complain or something happened on the property. I mean, it's just riskier in general. So, I mean, part of your due diligence in buying a property should be really looking at the county records, and also seeing if the seller actually closed past permits to do work. Because sometimes you find there's all these open permits, and some of that could possibly be negotiated in the sale. I mean, depending on the situation with the property. So it's always important to go in eyes wide in when you're buying a property in Hawaii, just to make sure that you know everything about it. Because like Dylan and Ashliey said, I mean, to try to go back and get after the fact permits, I mean, it can be a huge headache. It can take a really, really long time. I was showing a property, and it's a huge agricultural property, and there's this yoga shala on it, and the buyer really liked it, but it's completely unpermitted. So if they want to get a permit in the future to build something else on this property, they might have to take that down. So, I mean, that's just something to think about.
Yeah, I think what you said was correct. Eyes wide in. I like that, as opposed to eyes wide open, eyes wide in.
And one more common misconception, right, is off the grid equals no cost, right? And that is not accurate, right? So if you're living off the grid, like, yeah, you might not have a monthly water bill or a monthly electric bill, but you have now a solar system to maintain. You have a water system to maintain. Unless you have a super heavy duty solar system, you're probably going to need to buy propane to power your dryer, your water heater, your stove. And we just had a propane strike, and nobody could get propane, right? And propane's pretty expensive in Hawaii compared to other places. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you may not have a monthly bill, but you may have a pretty significant cost to buy batteries in the future, or new panels, or replace your water on your catchment tank, or replace your filtration systems or your water pump. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that we take for granted when we pay a bill. It's like easy, right? You just pay the bill every month and all your stuff works. Where when you're completely self-reliant, it doesn't mean that there's no cost. It's your cost structure just becomes different.
There's no such thing as a free lunch. That's the way I was told. No such. Actually, we've had a lot of talk about this. You threw something in earlier, but what else do you want to add to this about unpermitted homes, and what's your wisdom on this topic?
I'd say it's my specialty.
Okay. Well, please share. Please share. We're all ears.
Oahu, it's obviously very geographically, specific. You're not going to have an unpermitted house in Hawaiiloa Ridge, or Manoa. Eva Beach is pretty standard. Maybe someone does something interior wise, because then you have the difference between your interior works that are unpermitted versus your exterior work. But I work with a lot of investors who do a lot of, fix and flips and such. And so unfortunately, the DPP, the Department of Planning and Permitting process, is so long, it financially doesn't make sense for them to go through the permitting process. So I've seen it all. I've seen a neighbor call because of windows, but they have no idea what's going on inside. Right now we closed on a property 4 months later. Suddenly it got a notice of violation. So now we're going back and we're helping the buyer just back permit, costing 3 times the amount. Personally, I think it depends on the person's comfort level. Buying an unpermitted house, which some do exist on ag land here. I know it's actually very common. I won't say where. It's very common that people are building single family structures and compounds on agricultural land, which the resale value of that is going to be extremely challenging, and all unpermitted. But I think it's a social acceptance in that particular area. And then like North Shore, it's extremely common as well. I mean, I think out of all the houses that I've bought in several here on Oahu, they all have had unpermitted structures. Everything has had an Ohana unit or some type of additional structure. My first one had an unpermitted ADU. It had its own little septic system. Another one in Haleiwa, it had 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom on tax records. And in person, it's a 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom with an outside bathroom, carport, unpermitted, on the boundary line, 2 unpermitted rentals in the back, an unpermitted surfboard shaping room, the whole works, encroachments, everything you can imagine on there. It's still existing, just rent it, paying taxes and hoping for the best. It's been like 20 years since it's been there. Another house in Wahua, legal non-conforming, which means the structure's there. It was allowed back in the 60s. It's no longer allowed. It has its own electric meter, but they won't allow you to rebuild it if it was to burn down. And then I'm not all Wild West when it comes to real estate. I mean, the house I have now, everything's permitted. It's on the water with a pool. I'm reformed, but I've got that other side of me was like, well, that's an extra, it's an extra few $1,000s a month. So I have to tear it down. And
risk reward, right? Risk reward. Yeah. I thanks for bringing this up. I didn't quite realize you were quite the expert in unpermitted properties that is now being revealed, and what a gift. Excellent. So what is your general advice then to people like Mary who's looking at an unpermitted house when you have buyers that come to you that have either an unpermitted house or unpermitted, like Heidi said, unpermitted structures or unpermitted add-ons, or the extreme? What's your general take? What do you tell people?
The unpermitted house is really, I think that part is a bit unnerving. If there's unpermitted work on the house, I think that's honestly just, for me, that doesn't scare me at all. You go back, you back permit, you make friends with whoever the inspector is, and you just go with it, roll with the punches, so to speak. But an unpermitted house is not that common. And I don't think that someone should necessarily purchase an unpermitted house, because then you could be homeless, unless if you're okay with a yurt, if that had to happen. But I would suggest in negotiations that perhaps it be permitted, and then you can do an owner financing structure until the permits are processed, or something of that nature, where you can have the seller see it through, and then you have that security. If it doesn't, then you can pull out without being stuck with the property or an asset that you can't unload.
Awesome. All right. Let's, Dylan, is there anything that you want to add?
Yeah, the short takeaway is sometimes the deal costs you the most, right? Like you get what you pay for. And so the thing that looks really financially attractive could be the most expensive thing that you buy. So just be aware of that.
So don't do it to save money. Do it because you want the property. You do it because you accept the risk, or do it because whatever, but don't do it because it's the cheap way to go and it's all that you can afford. Because if all, like in Mary's case, she's making $3,000 a month. Is that gonna you with the risk about that?
And one more, bringing it back to kind of what Ashliey was talking about, right? If you're just talking about like an unpermitted ohana or like a downstairs, closed basement or something like that, that is somewhat more straightforward to get permitted in the future, still can be costly. one forcing function that the counties are using to get you to upgrade your cesspool is if you're on a cesspool and then you go in for building permits to do any type of renovation on your house, they're making you upgrade your cesspool to a septic system. So that could easily add another 20 grand in cost on what you already thought you were going to have to do. So that's another thing to kind of think about is even if you're just doing like a small, they did an unpermitted bathroom and you want to go get it permitted, now you got to upgrade your septic tank too. And you've just told them, right, that you have unpermitted space and that you have that you're going to have to do this. So sometimes you're self-identifying and getting yourself into trouble.
Yeah. So, what here's what my takeaway is. My takeaway is you better work, if you're going to be on the Big Island, you better work with Dylan and his team. If you're going to be on Oahu, you better work with Ashliey and her team. And if you're on Maui, you better work with Heidi, because there's a lot of stuff is like, look, I've known about unpermitted homes, and we've looked at various things, and we've bought and sold, homes over our 40-year history over here. But I didn't know any of this stuff. I don't have any of the stuff at the top of my fingers, all these experiences. And this is what it's all about. All right. Hey, let's catch up here on a bunch of comments that we've been getting. So first of all is what Auntie Jones said is ha'ole la ho'omana'o, which means I didn't know this, but now I know it. She who laughs kind of fills us in and says, hey, it means happy anniversary. So Auntie Joan, you are correct. It means happy anniversary. So thank you. Thank you, everyone, for happy anniversary. I appreciate that. And, we're talking about all this stuff that you had mentioned earlier, Dylan, about, an exit strategy. Ro Ritchie agrees, buy with an exit strategy, and also says, always see the house lend during all times of the day and never buy sight unseen. Yeah, I would agree. Sight unseen is not a good thing, unless I think Heidi mentioned this a long time ago. For some reason, Heidi's popping into my head. Sight unseen might be okay if, for example, there's a condo that you would stay in when you would visit Hawaii, vacation in Hawaii. You stay at this condo like every single time. You've been coming to this condo for 10 years, and now there's a unit in this condo that's available, and you have a good realtor who can do the basic due diligence. That would be an example of quote unquote sight unseen that someone may take. So anyway, all right. I think that's that. I think we've covered everyone's comments. All right. Why don't we do this? It's Let's get into our diamonds and deals over here. We should talk about our favorite properties over here. So, gang, here's where we talk about inspirational properties, diamonds and deals, a combination. And so, let's see what we got here. Who's first? We got this Kula Maui house. Looks amazing. Heidi, what are we looking at here?
This is a beautiful 3-bedroom, 3-bath home in Kula. You can see the ocean in the distance. There's half an acre of land, so a lot of privacy. You have a whole home water filtration system, photovoltaic solar panels with 2 Tesla backup batteries. It's about a 20-minute drive to the beach, and just really private, serene, lower Kula. And they're asking $195 for this home. Oh, and you have a jacuzzi on the back lanai as well.
Man, that is a cool property. I love the it's a small photo, but in the upper right, I'm seeing it looks like a koa, at least some kind of a hardwood floor. It could be koa or otherwise, I'm not sure. Maybe monkey pod, but hardwood floors, beautiful, great views on a half an acre. That's a big piece of land, and 2 Tesla. See, I only got 1. Now I'm jealous. I have 1 Tesla Powerwall battery. That's all we need. And this one's got 2 Tesla Powerwall batteries. That is a cool piece of technology, by the way. Side note. Excellent. Thank you, Heidi. That's a great property. What's up next? We got an Eva Beach house. Tell us all about it. Ashliey, what are we looking at here?
Well, we just listed this one, and I really liked it because 1, 5 bedrooms are not that common in Eva Beach. A lot of them are 4 bedrooms, but also this one has the 3-car garage. So you can either have a little bit more land or you can have the 3rd car garage. This garage, when they built it, they added an extra 2 feet. So for all of the lifted trucks, the small boats, this particular owner had standard side vehicles with electric bikes and scooters behind it. It also has an outlet for that. And then if you see in this bottom corner photo tucked into the back, you see the cabinets back there as well. So in addition to the 3-car garage, it also has additional workbench space and storage with utility sink. And so a lot of these Eva Beach houses, they don't come fully equipped like this. And a lot of people don't really upgrade them beyond the standard floor plans. And then they put the interior laundry. So all these homes have their washer and dryer in the garage, and you can see in the top right photo, they put it interior, which is kind of nice. They put a $4,000 bidet in. They redid all of the central AC. They redid everything that was non-cosmetic, but a homeowner would really benefit from all of the things that matter, right? Also has 2 Tesla batteries, has solar, has everything. And I think that this is it checks everyone's boxes. Bedroom downstairs with a full bathroom, renovated, just turnkey. It's nice.
Really functional. I mean, you mentioned a couple of things. I want to point this out to everybody. 3-car garage in Hawaii. I have I'm kind of thinking about it. There isn't, for sure, there isn't a single 3-car garage in our entire neighborhood. 3-car garages are very, very rare, not to mention ones with like work areas and all that kind of good stuff. And what is this with Tesla batteries? Did we tune into some cosmic thing here about Tesla batteries? First time we've never talked about Tesla, right, gang? We've never talked about Tesla batteries before. And now, so far, Dylan, you better have a Tesla battery in that house you're about to talk about. It better have a Tesla battery, because something's not right if it ain't there. But this is a really cool property, actually. It's really my guess is that this property is the previous homeowner or the current homeowner who's selling was head of household is like a carpenter dude, a guy who likes making his home completely functional. And
exactly.
Right. Yeah. And
he's got something about this neighborhood too, that if you're not familiar, if you're just moving to Hawaii, it's right next to, it's closer to the beach. So you have all these different neighborhoods in Ewa Beach. And this is in an area that's really close to the ocean. And so it's a short like golf cart or car ride away. It's on a more quiet street. It's not one of the main roads. So everyone can park on the street and kids can still play. And then you have the Huakale golf course, or country club rather, right next door. And then you also have Waikiki, which is like the newest hot spot for surfing and going to the lagoons for paddling and stuff like that. So it is they're calling it, or they're trying to make it, the West Kailua. And this house is down in the heart of it.
Nice. Really, it's got it all. Well done. Great choice. Great choice. Thanks. Dylan, first question is, how many Tesla batteries are in this house? No, just kidding.
I don't think there are any, but this is just a good example of why the Big Island is your best value if you're looking to buy in Hawaii. So funny, we all pick kind of like functional, normal houses this time. Sometimes we have the crazy stuff or the condo or whatever, but this is just a 4-bedroom, 4-bath. So it is a big home, and it's a hosted vacation rental that downstairs has 2 separate units. So the owner's upstairs, and there's 2 separate units downstairs. It makes around $70,000 a year in income. So, I mean, that would definitely cover your mortgage on a $1.3 million house. It's on an acre of land. It's right outside of Kailua Kona town. It's at like 800 feet of elevation, so perfect elevation. It's got ocean views. I mean, so just a really nice functional home that if you were looking for that house hacking type of situation, you could put long-term renters in there. It wouldn't make as much money, but you could definitely, live relatively low cost. This is a much better option, in my opinion, buy an unpermitted house. So if you want low cost living.
True.
There's a better way to create cash flow and low cost living than buying an unpermitted house. So,
man, I'm just thinking here, what a kind of a retiree's dream house, right? It's like, man, now the home itself is 4-bedroom, 4-bath, and it's got some additional short-term vacation rentals down below.
It's like 2 upstairs, 2 downstairs, right? But the 2 downstairs is like a 1-in-1, both 2 kind of studio units where you can rent them out separately. Yeah.
Even better. So
Dylan, do you have to live there in order to use it as a vacation rental?
Yes, it would have to be hosted. So it doesn't have and that's why that's the situation where you have to have a permanent resident upstairs. It does not have to be the actual owner. It just has to be somebody who's like a caretaker of the property, and then you can have it hosted. Quote unquote.
Dylan, are you seeing lenders that are allocate or allowing the income from the short-term vacation rental side to offset the mortgage? Because I know if it's residentially zoned, even if it has a legal hana or some type of legal dwelling on it, they won't let you offset the mortgage payments with the rental income.
I'm sure you can. I mean, it depends. Might be a different type of investor loan program where you got to do like 20% down. But yeah, well, we actually just closed on one that was like that. Like had like 3 separate rental units, and they took the rental projected. They didn't even have current rental income, projected rental income.
You just got the appraisal for the rental income.
Yeah.
Nice.
They do have to do it based on long-term rental, though. They don't do it based on short-term rentals, right? So you just got to take the market long-term rental value.
Man, I could sense the Ashliey calculator. I could sense the Ashliey calc. Ashliey calc is kind of spinning. I can feel it.
How long do I have to live on Big Island for it?
I can feel Ashliey calc. It's not, it's kicking in. But really, I mean, seriously though, I mean, that is like a killer property. You got like, it's perfect for like a retired couple. It's just, quote, just a 2-bedroom upstairs, which is all you need for a retired couple. And then you rent the two individual. It's almost like a little B&B, essentially a bed and breakfast, although you don't have to serve breakfast down below. Perfect, beautiful, looks like a really, I love the photograph is so floral.
Look at all of the landscaping, and you got those little with the 2 lounge chairs. I mean, yeah, it's great. Tons of space, you know. Yeah.
What a great lanai site. Really cool. Excellent. Gang, great choices today. Really cool properties. Love them. They are terrific. Excellent. All right, let's move on now. We're going to go to our closing motivational thoughts over here. We're wrapping this up. It's past your last chance to ask a question. We're just going to move on over here. And I've got a note here. Next show, June. I should have knocked that out. That's not the case. Our next show will be in 2 weeks. We are going to be in 2 weeks. So thanks, Bet. We're back on a normal schedule. Dylan, what's yours and was it meaningful to you?
The 2 most important days of your life are the day that you were born and the day you find out why. So if you don't know why that is yet, then your next most important day is still ahead of you. But those are the 2 most important days.
Know your why.
The why.
It should bring you to your knees.
Right? Absolutely. Well said, Ashliey. Add that one on. Bring it to your knees. What is the why? That's what it's all about, right? Why am I here? Is there a reason? Is there a purpose? Of course there is. And now you've got to find it. Thank you, Auntie Joan, for adding yours. By the way, gang, if you've got if this is everyone's kind of a chance here. If you want to add something to our wisdom, please do, like Auntie Joan just did. Life is what we make it. Always has been, always will be. Well said. Thank you, Auntie Joan, for adding yours onto this list. Heidi, what's yours and how is it? Tell me how it's meaningful to you.
If you wait for the perfect moment when all is safe and assured, it may never arrive. So this is, you plan, you make the best decisions you can, but at some point, you just need to make a decision and go for it. So this is just having the courage to do this and knowing that, everything's never going to be 100% perfect. You just got to go for it.
You just got to go for it. Guy Kawasaki, who was one of the marketing guys behind the very first Apple computers, has another line which is similar to this, and he talks about shipping a product. Some people want their product to be perfect, and his line right along this is, "Don't worry, be crappy." Send out a product. If it's better, it doesn't have to be perfect. Don't worry, it's okay to be crappy if it's better than everything else. Ashliey, what's yours today?
Change you. That doesn't make sense.
Hey, don't worry, be crappy. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just go for
it. Change. I have to I get to. So I think the simple mindset shift of, man, I have to go and drive into the traffic to go over here. Or, man, I have to go to the grocery store and I have to cook tonight. So I get to go to the grocery store. I get to cook tonight. I get to make 100 calls and I get to sit open house on a beautiful Sunday.
There, that's like a cool shift, right? It's a shift from obligation to gratitude, right? That's what I get to means, right? It's attitude of gratitude, right? Which every study I've ever heard about gratitude says, gratitude is like a super important emotion to accentuate, to increase in your life. Those with attitudes of gratitude, and that's a great one. I have to get to do that. I will get to do that. I will get to do that, Ashliey. Thank you.
And to your point, I say that to my daughter all the time. I say gratitude, not attitude, honey.
I've never heard that before. Attitude, not gratitude, not attitude. That's a good one. That's a good one because, God knows that when we have young children, we get a lot of attitude.
I get to be a mom.
I get to be a mom. I get to deal with my kids' attitude. Yes. And at the same time, Ashliey, you get to see them grow up and become their own persons as they become adults.
Don't make me cry.
Yes. Okay. All right. Excellent. Okay, great. So I'm going to round this up with my, of course, I'm going to do my thing here. Proverbs, the perverse will be filled with the fruit of their ways, and the good with the fruit of their deeds. And I think that great wisdom kind of speaks for itself, right? It basically it's to tell us like you reap what you sow. In other words, the perverse will be filled with the fruit of their labors, and the good with the fruit of their deeds. I think that's it for today. All right, folks. Hope you all had a great one. It was great. It was, we had that break, but I'm glad we're back. See you all in 2 weeks. Let's say goodbye we got one over here from Val. Thank you, Val. Val says, gratitude is not the only greatest virtue, but the parent of all others. Excellent. Thank you, Val. Good to see you, and glad that you contributed. All right. Why don't we all say goodbye here? Let's go clockwise. Dylan, then Heidi, and then Ashliey. Say goodbye.
Hello, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Aloha.
Have a blessed day and a great weekend.
We get to enjoy Hawaii. We get to enjoy living in the greatest place on earth, right? Yeah. And thank you, Val, for the happy anniversary wishes. All right, gang, y'all take care. Have a great one. Aloha.